Georgi, tonight. Again, it's after work hours, and very happy to see you, first of all.
Thanks a lot for the invite. It's my pleasure to be here, and I can't wait to share indeed the value behind the storytelling with the audience.
Awesome. Yep. As you already gave out a little bit, the idea of this episode is to see your story, break it through the hero's journey, and see what are your tips on storytelling as a whole. And when I saw you on LinkedIn, when we started chatting up a little bit, you actually approached me with something that I'm actually trying to replicate today with my life and my network connection. And this, just quick chat, this quick introduction. Very, very favorable 15 minutes that like could do wonders for people who use them, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, I do believe that indeed the networking call that we had at first place was amazing because, as you mentioned, it's always good to connect with like-minded individuals within the B2B marketing space and general within the marketing space. So I'm really happy indeed to have this talk today and the previous talk that we had, and sharing values and resources with the people in this space is actually pretty vital for the personal growth of for you and for me. So
That's one of the biggest perks of LinkedIn still. I hope they don't ruin it with more selfies and cat photos, but you get on the channel when you're looking for something specific to enrich your mindset in one way or another, to get some new skills, under your belt. So the fact that they're still doing a good job to show me relevant content and to show me your profile, that means that the algorithm is working for now. Uh,
absolutely.
Something that you mentioned on our call like a couple of weeks ago is where I want to actually start off this episode and delve deeper into your story. But usually it's around the teen years, depending on how fast you evolve and how fast you develop and you mature. But
Mhm.
usually in the teen years, us as guys and just as people as a whole, we want to look for our place in the world. We start thinking about careers and professional development. And in these moments, the entrepreneurs are born or are triggered and they see something that they want to change and to adjust their position in their environment. And it's usually this point where the hero's journey starts, right? At this
Yeah.
point, we have you as this young Hercules, let's say, who embarked on this journey to start. Actually, now you tell us in more details what was the first thing that you started, but you mentioned it was something around gyms and
Mhm.
working out and being a trainer, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, introduce us to your journey as a professional.
Yeah. Basically, I started my journey really early. Like by the time I was 11, I was already selling games through
Nice.
some e-commerce platforms, Bulgarian ones. My mom didn't actually wanted to purchase some games for me, and me as a gamer boy, I decided to first of all save some money from some snacks, and second of all to actually play a game and resell it with a bit higher margin. And that's how like I actually managed to get my first profits by the time I was 11 years old, and I managed to purchase almost every game that I wanted to play. So this was my earliest contact with entrepreneurship. Then fast forward to my 16, I think I was 16 by the time I established that there was a clear gap in the fitness industry back home. A lot of people back in the day didn't really understand the value behind not taking steroids. I think actually right now it's getting worse, but that's another topic to speak about. Either way, I just really wanted to provide the good values and the good habits behind the healthy lifestyle that everybody I recommend to basically follow. Because then you not only take care of your body, but also for your mind. And as professionals who works on the PC or in front of the PC for quite a lot of time, I would say that's critical. Did that for 4 years. And this is maybe how I related to my hero journey. I faced the major problem of running out of insights and inspiration within this space, also career-wise. I felt I have taken the most out of it. So then I met some people within the marketing space, and this is indeed where Luke Skywalker meets with Yoda, right? Was it like this, like in the movies?
Yep, like when you get introduced to your mentor, to the person or the hero who says, "Okay, follow these steps and you win." So this
Yeah.
was your introduction to your first mentor?
No, this was my introduction to one company in the Netherlands called Growth Tribe. They initially provide certification within the business space, and I got actually introduced to growth hacking, the thing that I'm doing at the moment, and I'm so passionate about because hacking growth is something amazing, especially with the in the B2B space. I got introduced to this subject. I already got some knowledge in content because of my previous business efforts and some basic SEO, and that helped me to actually step up my marketing game and become the growth marketeer I am today.
Okay, so I have two things that I want to ask you on this one, and I'm actually going to go back on the timeline back when you were 11 years old. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned that you were selling games. The first thing actually that I sold successfully was something similar. I remember I was in this bookstore that my mother was working in, and there was this fantasy book that I just loved too much. A random lady came in. She said that she needed to buy a book for her kids. I was in the bookstore then. I was what 11 years old, 12 years old, something like this. She was wondering what to get, and I immediately recommended her this book that is still like one of my favorite child books to this day. But it stood out to me that like now that I'm thinking about it, okay, she saw a person who who relates a lot to her kids, probably
Mm-hmm.
the same age, and she trusted me because I already had this experience. I already experienced the product, right?
Yeah.
What was your process of selling those games? Like, who did you sell them to, and what was your process to, make the sale?
Yeah, well, if I have to be honest, I didn't have the knowledge that I have right now, of course. I would have done it way better with my current knowledge. But I realized that actually not the kids are paying for the game, it's the parents.
Mm,
So I use kind of bait and hook type of model in regards to that because I mentioned only one of my games is 7 lefts, whatever. And that just become a very catchy title. Of course, not every game was at that price, but that led to a lot of traffic to my offer. And
okay.
indeed, that led to further purchases. And then I included cross selling and upselling, if I can say it like this. Like did some bundles with consoles, even selling my some of my friends' consoles. It was really fun. If I have to be honest, like outside of being in school, this was a very good side hustle, I would say.
Very nice. And like, you didn't need to, so basically you had to convince the parents, right? They were the end consumers of the games.
Yeah, yeah. Indeed, all it took me was some good pictures of the product. No watts back in the day. Like
Yeah.
I didn't have budget as well, so it was purely on the games. I think their customer journey, if I have to say it like this, was initially
Obviously.
to check what's available on the platform where I was selling those games, then check some reviews from some Bulgarian websites like Ozon or
Mhm.
I forgot the name of the web store before Ozone. What was the name? Yeah, never mind. There was another one that was even more gamer focused type of web
Okay.
store. Because as you may know, Ozone actually sells quite a lot of things. Like their assortment is quite big. And indeed, they checked the reviews, and I just published the games that every kid wanted then. So the demand was there, and the supply was there. So I just made a connection, and I sold games in my neighborhood, which was a bit weird, but it is what it is.
So down the road, like, obviously this was the first introduction. It helped you out to understand that this could actually happen. It's completely doable.
Mm-hmm.
And just to apply these same methods and these same tactics into different fields. This is one of the beautiful things of marketing. Like the specific tactics and platforms change on a day-to-day basis, but the foundation is usually still the same, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
human psychology, what we want, what triggers us to buy certain stuff, and apply those laws, those immutable laws, like the book says, and apply them just on different platforms.
Yep. It actually,
Platform
oh, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to add that indeed storytelling does play a big role in all kind of efforts like paid advertising. Right now, for I'm running ads, Facebook ads for one of the startups that I have just acquired as a client, and indeed the storytelling behind it, it's very needed because if not, you can really showcase the features and actually the outcomes of what will happen if you join the beta, right? So I use all of these copywriting tactics like take a breath and let the pocket agency run your ads for you. All of these small tricks that adds up to the whole story of how easy and seamless is the product.
Fair enough. And you made me remember something that you asked me on our first call, and I'm going to reflect this question back to you. But now, when we take the hero's journey and start going step by step, we got introduced to the hero and the initial setting. Obviously, you getting introduced to those games and getting the urge to start selling them. Now, the second step is usually one big challenge that you face, one big problem that you face,
Mhm.
from your past experience, now from those days in the beginning to up until now, what would be a very challenging period or a challenging event that stood out to you and made you realize, all right, I have to push a little bit harder here, but the reward will be sweet.
Mhm. Wow. Well, there are multiple events like this, but I would say the brightest example in my mind is last year in October. I was living in a very bad accommodation with no heating during the winter. And on the
Mm.
other side, I was still focused quite a lot on the fitness market. As I mentioned, by being introduced to the Growth Tribe courses, I decided to do a complete career change. So that was like the first step in order to get to the next level and solve the initial problem, because indeed I needed more money. The second step was to actually start learning even more and more about digital marketing and how to do sales, because outside of the internship that I did, I also worked in a digital marketing consultancy. It was a Bulgarian digital marketing consultant company focusing on fitness clubs around the world. And indeed, in order to, get to that level, to meet the founders of the gyms or the clubs, whatever, and do an actual sales pitch to them, I needed to learn quite a lot.
Those moments that you have to learn while you're on the job, right?
Yeah, basically this, and then the nights where it was cold in the room and you didn't have much to eat because it's a student accommodation, so there is nothing that you can do. So simply all of this painful process, I told myself, okay, in the end it will be worth it.
And this is like very obvious observation, but at the same time, I guess people don't think about it that much, but those harshest moments, like you're hungry, you're living on the student accommodations, like 100, 200, 300 left stops per month and trying to figure it out. Okay, if I pay the bus today, will I be able to get a sandwich for breakfast tomorrow or just
Mm.
coffee? Like they push us into some additional mental state that's, well, flight or fight response, right? You need to do anything or I would just need to survive another cold day. And
Mhm.
you at the same time you're trying to escape from those cold days, but once you get too comfortable, you kind of stagnate and you kind of need
Mhm.
to push yourself like internally to push yourself because your environment is already set, it's comfortable. Why would I need to push more? Well,
Absolutely.
you
No,
need.
yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of founders are also doing the same by the time they actually have a budget for, a good marketing budget. Because if you don't have a good marketing budget, then you need a lot of know-how about specific channels. And on the other side, you need to really focus on the fundamentals, and your creativity needs to play a big role in all of these marketing strategies that you need to execute in order to basically survive as a startup.
That's true. That's true. I agree. Something else actually that I remember from the previous episode that I recorded when I asked this same question. Okay, what was the first major problem?
Mhm.
Pretty similar situation. Like Emo, you will know him. He got introduced with. He was following some courses that he just passed on, and at some point, the way he described it, at some point he just got fed up with following a course and trying to learn stuff and read and learn stuff. He decided he wants to drop everything and just start applying it. And this is a little bit of
Nice.
anti-art towards the courses that we all buy and follow. But hey, if it works, well, why not just tackle the problem that you have, start some side project. His side project was selling socks. Yours
Mm,
was, getting into the gym and finding this gap in the market.
yeah.
But down the road, the biggest hero, the biggest mentor that a person can have is pure experience. Get into the mud, try it out. Most probably you'll fail the first time. If you don't
Mhm.
fail, still better for you. But those courses that we want to follow all the time and just extract the information don't work always, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I actually do agree quite a lot with you on that. I do think that courses are a very good foundation for the entry level people. I personally struggle quite a lot with the fact that I need to search for different articles, but you don't know if those articles are actually providing relevant knowledge in that sense, and if that is actually advanced information that they're providing. Because most of the time,
Mm.
people say advanced course on SEO or advanced course on this on that, but it's actually not advanced, and that's I think a major problem. I'm not anti courses because this is how I indeed managed to get to the position where I am today. I'm I'm self learner. In my
Mhm.
experience, nobody gave me a hand to teach me how to do marketing outside of myself. I've been part of some startups outside of my own projects, and there it was very funny to see how 21, well, I was 19 to 20 then years old. It's fun to see how people around 27 need to trust somebody who is that young. And on the other side, it's very good that they
Yeah.
give you actually the freedom to experiment as much as possible. And I think that's the beauty in the struggle, right? And I feel like a good advice that I would give to everybody who would like to start one day their own company is indeed to join a startup.
Um, I have my experience with small agencies, and I do agree that this is the best way to learn, like have joining a startup. But what are the advantages that you see actually in this? Like
And
why
working
a startup?
All right. First of all, you work hand to hand with the founders, so you see their daily struggles. On the other side, you learn really how to do brand positioning. You
Mm.
really understand the values behind the mission and the vision. You really need to know how to build a data-driven culture in order to, grow the metrics, even if you want to call it like hit those targets, hit those quarterly or monthly targets in that sense. On the other side, you can firsthand experience how to do sales with early adopters, how to gain early adopters, and all of these goods. And last but not least, you basically see how to build a product from scratch because it's a really complex thing to do. But by the time you know the basics, just like in SEO, let's say backlinking, on page SEO, off page SEO, you just implement them and that the long-term strategy win.
And and I would add to this, like what I noticed when I started working in the previous agency. So the setting was the following: two co-founders moved to Bulgaria, trying to scale a small agency for LinkedIn thought leadership, and
Mm-hmm.
trying to find and to build a small team. One of the team members was me. I joined in 2018, and they were one of my first examples of a CEO, of a founder of founders who are actually curious about learning new stuff about their
Mm.
industry, and curious to learn how to improve their service better, and also curious to see, all right, what are our clients saying? Why are they giving us this specific feedback? Like, are we working even with the right clients or not?
Mm-hmm.
And after this moment, if when you start changing jobs and you start getting introduced to different founders and different leaders, you realize that yes, everybody can start a company, everybody can start an agency, but it's a you need a whole different breed to actually run an agency, scale it 24/7,
Mm.
because a lot of responsibilities fall on your shoulders, right? If
Absolutely.
Whether it's the profits, whether it's the salary that you need to pay to your team members, whether it's to finding new clients, like all of these things are not
Handling
like a nine to
investors.
five to job.
Handling investors is also like one of the things whenever you need to have a SaaS company or something. Of course, in your case, might not be the case, but either way. Hey, I'm curious
Yeah.
to know what's your biggest learning then, because you mentioned it's like really like it's a very good learning experience. I'm curious, what's the biggest lesson you learned from those people?
It's definitely the importance of communication, especially when it comes to marketing, and most of the things are, first of all, we are all working remotely from all different sides of the world, and we are communicating just through screen. You start lacking a lot of different aspects of of communicating, whether it's the body language, whether it's the tonality. So you have to be very, very specific in what you want to say and how you want to say it. And even you have to be cautious how those people are feeling at this specific moment, because you're familiar, I'm sure, that if you're triggered, it's one way to react through the screen. Then if you are triggered and somebody says something bad in front of your face, and even if they don't mean to offend you, you'll be more eager to argue back when you're writing an email or writing a message on Slack. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely the importance of communication is something that I'm still struggling and trying to develop in my personal life and in my professional life.
That's a
But
good learning.
this is why storytelling works wonders for millennia back in the days, right? This is something that some people, like, not going to pinpoint names of these experts because I don't remember them quite well, but they believe that this is how scholars from back in the days, like the Roman scholars, the Greek scholars, they actually transferred information through myths and legends. Because if they just wrote down facts like 4 + 4 = 8, it would be so boring for us, for the average people, to consume this information, that we will be just skipping it. That's why we have the Noah's Ark, we have different mythologies and gods and goddesses, like from the Greek mythology or whatever the culture is. There's a lot of stories that you can trace back for centuries ago.
Mm-hmm.
And because I want to close it up a little bit, we talked about, your initial challenges and your initial mentors. Now, what would be a story that stood out from your childhood or your teen years? What would be a story that you can always relate to back in the days, and why is it important to you?
Cool. Let's see. Do we speak about business cases or personal story?
Shoot me.
um, well, that's a hard one. Mm-mm-mm. To be honest, this question kind of similar to who is your favorite storyteller. I feel like every story has its unique traits, and I mean the story. Oh, there is one. So basically, I was reading this book called Contagious. It's all
Hmm.
about creating very good ideas, and the story about the steak restaurant in San Francisco
Yeah.
destroyed me. For the audience, basically, there is a restaurant who was facing some financial struggles, as far as I remember, and they needed a new concept. They tried a lot of things, but nothing worked until they introduced $1,000 steak or something like this.
Yeah.
And people got extremely curious. And that's a unique story. What's so unique about this steak that costs $1,000, right? So that brings a whole new level of storytelling because then they can actually introduce the way of cooking, the meat, how it's prepared, etc., etc. And that's a unique story, I feel like, because that's how they
Exactly.
managed to dominate the local restaurant market.
Yep, actually, this is one of the examples that stood out to me from this book. As you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, that this $101 good that's provided that got people triggered, and it is the whole experience, right? It's the everything, not just the food, but as you mentioned, how is it prepared, how is it served, taking the person from step A to step Z, going through the whole journey together with the client at this point, uh,
Mm-hmm.
actually justifies this big number.
Absolutely. No, customer experience is part of every good product. Like we all know Dropbox, we all know Duolingo is destroying
Yeah.
the customer experience with like all of the retention strategies that they do have with the freezing of your streaks, right?
Yep.
So absolutely, I feel like that's another topic that we can discuss later on, maybe because I know you want to wrap it up. But definitely,
Yeah.
as a recommendation to founders would be to focus on customer experience.
Great recommendation to actually to finish this up and wrap it up. Definitely, we'll continue a conversation in later episodes. Now, with in these short episodes, in these introductions, it's very fun to actually hear the story of the guests and how they have met their first challenges. And obviously, as everybody's stories grow as we move along, as we continue doing new stuff and try new experiments, and I'll wait for you to get a little bit more, even more projects behind your belt. You already mentioned that you have different things that you're working on, and when it's the time for you to announce them, we can all follow your LinkedIn and check those updates out. But I'm looking forward for another conversation with you. I'm very happy and pleased that you joined me after working hours. We know it's very tiring, especially when you have a lot of stuff on your mind. So I appreciate you taking the time, and talk to you soon and hope to hear from you again soon.
Yep, definitely. Have a good night, everybody.